Of Hind Rajab, about a 6-year-old Palestinian girl killed by Israeli forces in Gaza. It's up for the Best International Feature Film. Stay with us. Sabalia Yunus, he lowered his eyes, a funeral song performed by the New York City Palestinian Youth Choir. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We spend the rest of the hour looking at 2 of the 5 films on Israel and Palestine that have been shortlisted for this year's Academy Awards. We first go to The Voice of Hind Rajab, the critically acclaimed docudrama about the 6-year-old Palestinian girl whose killing by Israeli forces in Gaza in January 2024 reverberated around the world. The film shortlisted for the 2026 Oscars in Best International Feature Film category. It incorporates the real audio recordings of phone calls from little Hind as she was trapped under Israeli fire for hours, pleading with Palestine Red Crescent dispatchers who were dozens of miles away from Gaza in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank, pleading with them to be rescued from a car where her aunt, uncle, and 4 cousins lay dead. It was January 29th, 2024. Israeli forces had ordered the evacuation of Gaza City's neighborhood of Tel al-Hawa. So Hind's aunt and uncle attempted to flee the city with Hind and her 4 cousins. But before the family could escape, their car came under fire by Israeli soldiers outside a gas station. This is the trailer for The Voice of Hind Rajab.
You have to stop the bleeding.
An ambulance is on its way, based on real events.
Red Crescent Emergency Room, Ramallah. This is Omar. How can I help you?
The voices on the phone are real.
Hello?
I'm scared. They're shooting. Come get me, please.
What's your name?
Hind Rajab Hamada. Please don't leave me. I'm all alone.
Mehdi, I need an ambulance.
We need to guarantee them a safe route.
She doesn't have time.
The tanks are here. They're shooting at me.
See all these people? We've lost them all. Without coordination, those 8 minutes can cost them their lives, Omar.
Please come.
They are shooting at a car with a little girl inside. Can you imagine that? So do something.
Save me.
Are you in preschool?
I'm in the butterfly class.
Hind,
Yes?
We're coming to get you.
Please don't leave me. I'm afraid of the dark.
There's still some light left. We still have some time.
That's the trailer for The Voice of Hind Rajab. As the Red Crescent dispatchers speak with Hind, colleagues are trying to get an ambulance to her, which required coordination with and approval by Israeli authorities. The Palestine Red Crescent Society later said Israeli forces also targeted its ambulance as it arrived on the scene. The emergency workers, Yusuf Zaino and Ahmed Ahmadoun, had found their way to Hind, but were killed by Israeli forces just yards away from Hind's family car. The bullet-riddled vehicle was found with more than 300 holes from Israeli fire, according to forensic architecture. For more, we're joined by Khaled Ben-Hania, the Academy Award-nominated Tunisian filmmaker and the director of The Voice of Hind Rajab. The film received a record-breaking 23-minute standing ovation at its Venice Film Festival premiere last year. Khaled's other films include the Oscar-nominated Four Daughters and The Man Who Sold His Skin. Welcome to Democracy Now! It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you.
This is Tunisia's official entry into the Oscars. You actually filmed this in Tunisia, though it is, and so that people, except for Hind's voice, are actors who are playing the Red Crescent workers. Explain why you did this, when you did it.
It started with the voice of Hind Rajab, obviously, because I heard a small extract on internet published at the time by the Red Crescent, Palestinian Red Crescent, during those 12 days, of siege, when they had no news from their paramedic and from Hind,
This was after they were killed.
Nobody knows. Yeah, after the paramedic killed, but nobody knows, what happened to her. But she was killed. But they have to wait 12 days. So when I heard her voice, this is. I was in a period asking myself about what does it mean to tell stories when the unthinkable is happening. I was glued to the news, following what was happening in Gaza. And for me, it was very important to take this voice out of the social media busyness and forgetfulness and amnesia, and to put it in a cinematic form where people can sit and listen. Because when you hear her voice, you can't unhear it. At least for me, it haunted me, and I had this feeling of helplessness, and I thought, I hate it when I feel helpless. What can I do? I can do movies, So I did this movie to honor her voice, but also to tell this incredible story of those heroes, trying to save lives in impossible conditions.
Describe what it was like on the set. I mean, you have these actors who are also human beings, and they were playing the Red Crescent workers. You had the transcripts. You also had them talking to each other and writing to each other in the office in Ramallah. They're trying to coordinate to get her help. The ambulance was, what, like 8 minutes away?
8 minutes away, yeah.
But there was also the fighting of, even if they get approval from the Israelis, explain the difference between approval and what it meant to get the green light. To know that these ambulance workers wouldn't be killed on their way to her.
Yeah, I mean, I did this choice to have actors because I needed to do this movie in the present tense, to go back when this moment when Hind was alive, and as you said, the ambulance was 8 minutes away, so it was possible to save her. It's the access was denied. Those paramedics were killed, and I remember when I started working on this movie, everything was in the recording. It's a movie started with the sound, So you have all the killing of the cousin, the 15-year-old, in the.
She was the one who first called the Red Crescent, and she was 15. What's astounding is that once she's killed with her family, little Hind is then describing everything she sees.
Exactly.
She's 6.
Yeah, exactly. She's not even 6, She's younger than 6. And then we have in the recording the voice of Yusuf Zainu talking to Mahdi and saying, here the ambulance, here the car, here she is, So he was meter away from the car, and then we hear the bombing. So for me, the main idea in the beginning was to explain why you can send an ambulance 8 minutes away, Because for me, it's completely insane, We have a child begging for life. So then when I talked to the real Red Crescent person, they explained to me the system of coordination.
Quote, coordination.
Yeah, exactly. And how they did everything, in their power to respect those imposed rule, those rules done, you know, like not to be respected. Those rules were not respected by the Israeli army because they did everything by the book. They sent the ambulance, and the ambulance was bombarded. And at this moment, since I did this movie with this form where actors are portraying real people, I knew for the audience that I need to have a clear contract. Those are actors, and even actors can't act this, you know, story. And this is why in the movie you have them stopping acting by moment, you know, and listening to their perspective character they are portraying, talking to him, you know, till this incredible moment. I remember when I heard it, I said, this is not true. When they bombarded the ambulance coming to rescue little Hind, it was true. So for me, it was very important at this point to go to something archival, documentary, and we see in the movie that we have the actors acting, but at the same time, I had a lot of chance to have an archive of this moment because one of their colleagues in the Red Crescent filmed them. So I did this scene to go out of, you know, the acting, to go to the archival moment.
And in the office, in the Ramallah Red Crescent office, are the pictures of the past dead ambulance and paramedics to remind them how dangerous it is even for them. I want to end with this clip of Voice of Hind Rajab, where we hear two Palestine Red Crescent dispatchers in Ramallah on the occupied West Bank. Again, they are actors who answer Hind Rajab's call. The call is real as she pleads to be rescued.
What
What is your name?
There's no one with me.
What's your name?
There's no one with me.
I can't hear your name. I'm Omar. What's your name?
My name is Hanud.
What's your name?
هنود.
Come get me.
And your sister's name?
Come get me.
Where's your sister?
طيب
I will, but where's your sister?
I don't have one.
Mahdi.
Mehdi.
في بنت عمرها
A 6-year-old girl is still hidden in the car.
A 6-year-old girl in the car? And the others?
البقية
The others, I don't know. She says she's alone. She's on the line with me.
هي مع الخط.
Who's on the line with you?
زهيل بنت.
The girl.
Is she a member of the Hamada family?
Ask her.
هنود. انت شو اسم العيلة؟ شو اسمك الكامل؟
What's your full name?
هند رجب حمادة. طب يلا ماشي. طب تخبي تحت الكراسي.
Hide under the seat. Don't let anyone see you.
Stay with her.
تمام؟
Okay?
Yes.
Another clip from the Voice of Hind Rajab. You got the blessing of Hind's mother, who was not in the car, to do this film.
Yeah, it was one of the first things I did before even taking the decision to make this movie, because it's her daughter and I need her approval. Not only her approval, but also her blessing. So I called her, and she was at the time still in Gaza. Thanks God she'd been evacuated. And she was mourning, but also she was moving from one house to another. She couldn't, you know, but she's, for me, the example of resilience. And she told me, my daughter is not the only child killed this way in Gaza. I want justice for my daughter, and if your movie can help, please do it. So, and for me it was, you know, very important to do this movie. And I want just to say that we met recently with Hind mother at Doha Film Festival. They invited the 4 real Red Crescent employees with my actors, and we gathered around Hind mother, and she was feeling so, how to say, a lot of courage, because she was meeting audience after every screening. And for her, it was like a funeral, you know, because she didn't have a proper funeral for her daughter in Gaza at the time. So in every screening, she arrives when the credit roll to talk with the audience and to see that they are sharing her pain.
Kawthar Ben-Hani, I want to thank you so much for being with us. The renowned filmmaker, the director of The Voice of Hinderjab, up for the Best International Feature Film, the Academy Awards. It's opening at Film Forum tonight, and then moving on to Los Angeles and beyond in the United States. Next up, we look at another film shortlisted for an Academy Award, this one for Best Documentary Feature. It's called Holding Liat, about former Israeli hostage Liat Atzili, who will join us in the studio with the film's director. These are films, and they are real life. Stay with us.
Well, Blackjack, Davy came a walking through the woods, singing so loud and gaily. He whistled and he sang till the wildwoods ran. And he charmed the heart of a lady, charmed the heart of a lady. He charmed the heart of a lady, charmed the heart of a lady. How old are you, my pretty fair miss? How old are you, my honey? She answered once with a pretty little smile. I'll be 16 next Sunday.
Nora Brown performing at the Brooklyn Folk Festival. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show with another film that's been shortlisted for the Academy Awards in the Best Documentary Feature category, Holding Liat. On October 7, 2023, during a Hamas's attack on Israel, the Israeli-American Liat Benin Atzili was taken hostage along with 250 others, at least 12 of them U.S. citizens. Holding Liat is an intimate lens into the heart-wrenching fight by Liat's family to free her. The film follows her parents, Yehuda and Chaya Benin, as they cope with the fear and uncertainty of their daughter's captivity while witnessing Israel's war on Gaza unfold in real time. This is the trailer for Holding Liat.
Our intelligence says your daughter Liat is being held by terrorists in the Gaza Strip.
Wait.
It is so hard not knowing what's going on with her. My biggest worry is that she's not with us anymore.
We're being led by crazy people, whether it's on the Israeli side or whether on the Palestinian side. And the result is all this death and destruction.
Yehuda and I deal with problems differently.
The struggle for peace and reconciliation is the best way to respect Liat and Aviv and provide a human side to the story.
I'm not going to thank them for abducting my parents and murdering my acquaintances.
Let's just figure out where Liat and Aviv are. Let's just focus on that, Abba.
Be supportive of the family, and on the other hand, I'm here and I disagree politically.
Sometimes it's better to just be quiet, because you know what? For getting Liat and Aviv back, put a yarmulke on your head.
No, I'm not going to run away. I'll stand my ground.
There's no way of knowing how much longer this is going to go on.
Who's holding her? Is she in a house? Is she in a cave? Is she being fed? Does she have her glasses? The longer it takes, the harder it is to stay positive.
There's no guarantee that either of them are coming out of this alive.
We just got the list, and unfortunately, Liat is not on today's list.
In this clip of Holding Liat, Liat's father, Yehuda Benin, travels to Washington, D.C. to advocate for Liat, his daughter's release.
Whatever happens with Aviv and Liat, it's not in my hands. But it's not in my nature just to sit around and to wait for things to happen. This is not a future that I envision for either of my children. this war ever ended well. Liat actually, because she's smarter than me, understood this a long time ago, much before me.
For more, we're joined by Liat Benin Atzili, high school history teacher, subject of the film Holding Liat. She was held hostage in Gaza for 54 days, released in November 2023. And Brandon Kramer, director of Holding Liat, which has been shortlisted for the Oscars in Best Documentary Feature category. Welcome you both to Democracy Now! And my condolences, Liat, on the death of your husband. You were both taken from the kibbutz near Az. You did not know during that whole 54 days that he had been killed?
I didn't know, and thank you. I didn't know what had happened to him, and I didn't know what had happened to my two sons who were on the kibbutz. I have a daughter, my youngest, who wasn't on the kibbutz on that day, so I knew that at least she was alive. That was what kept me going during those days.
And talk about who held you.
I was held at first by a family for about 36 hours. They were the family of the person who took me from my house. He was a member of Hamas. I don't know what his family's politics were, but they treated me very well. I have to say that.
It was his mother?
Yeah, his mother and his sister. And after about 36 hours, I was transferred to a different place where at first there were about 10 Hamas people, and eventually I stayed with two that...
with two men?
With two men who were with me until I was released.
You and another hostage?
Me and another hostage, yes.
How did they treat you?
They told us from the beginning that we were very isolated, which is a little bit different than what most of the other hostages experienced, and we didn't see anybody other than each other. And they kept telling us that they had no idea what was going on with other hostages, and that it was their job to keep us safe and to keep us healthy until we were released in a hostage deal. And that's what they did.
And we go through the agony of your family. We interviewed your uncle, Stanford professor Joel Benin, well known as a deep critic of the Netanyahu government, talking about you, but wanting you to tell your own story here, which is why it is an honor for you to be here. And Brandon Kramer, in the little time we have left, why you decided to do this film about Liat?
Yeah, I mean, Liat and Aviv, they're relatives of mine, and when
Aviv, her husband.
Aviv, her husband, and when we found out that Liat and Aviv were taken, we felt this responsibility to pick up our camera and start documenting what their family was going through. And as we started to film, you know, we were documenting Liat's father, who within days of Liat being released was very vocal, saying, I don't want my daughter and son-in-law's captivity to be used as justification or weaponized to perpetuate violence against Palestinians in Gaza. I want the opposite. I want peace. I want reconciliation. And in that moment in time, that was not a story that was being told. The narrative was very different, and that's why we made the film.
And Liat, your message to the world 2 years later, your feelings today?
Well, it's very difficult speaking after watching parts of the film. The voice of Hind Rajab, really, it's so moving and touching. And I think that the most important thing that people remember is that there aren't any conflicts that aren't unsolvable. It's just a matter of people wanting to speak to each other and wanting to listen and to understand each other's stories, and that if we don't do that, we're just allowing violence to take over. And like my dad says in the film, and in the parts that we saw,
3 seconds.
More violence and more killing aren't going to get us anywhere.
We're going to do part 2 and post online at democracynow.org. Liat Benin Atzili, held by Hamas for 54 days. Brandon Kramer, director of Holding Liat.
There are so many ways to support the programs you love on KPFK. Monthly gifts, vehicle donations, and now real estate donations. Maybe it's a cabin you never visit, a lot you're not using, or a house that's more work than it's worth. These kinds of gifts can do more than clear your plate. They can power the public radio you depend on. Your property donation may offer you tax advantages while helping fund the stories and voices you count on every day. Learn more about giving land or real estate to KPFK at kpfk.org/real estate or call 1-844-277-4663.
KPFK 90.7 FM Los Angeles and kpfk.org worldwide. This is Michael O'Keefe. Listen up. This is important stuff.
That theme music means that you're tuned in to Cut to the Chase on KPFK Los Angeles. 90.7 FM, Los Angeles. And here we go again. You know, this hour goes so fast. We're going to sort of continue from last week. We were talking about the bombing in Nigeria. And we're going to continue with that a little later with our guest, Nefta Freeman of the Black Alliance for Peace. But a lot going on. Of course, you know, last week we weren't, it was the day after that the bombing of Venezuela, the kidnapping, yes, I call it a kidnapping of Maduro, was taken by the United States. And that was January the 3rd. But I want to read something to you, and then we're going to see what else happened on January 3rd, which you finally found out. But it was a telegram reportedly signed by Donald Trump, who, of course, is a powerful voice of the Group of Seven and the International Monetary Fund. It was directed to the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré. It said he had just 1 day to hand over 70% of the country's gold reserves. Otherwise, the country would have to immediately pay the entire debt and interest amount of $5.6 billion. Now, this was once again by Donald Trump using his absolute power to launch a global economic attack under the guise of diplomacy. The demands shocked not only Washington, but also the neutral nations of the G7 and the 19 countries of the IMF system. No negotiation, no concessions, just a cold ultimatum. Pay the debt or surrender half of Burkina Faso's newly mined gold. This was a threat aimed straight at the heart of the Burkina Faso government. According to sources, the classified cable did not simply appear out of nowhere. It was delivered by hand through an absolutely trusted intermediary representing the G7. That person was Italian Prime Minister George Meloni, alongside Kristalina Georgieva, I hope I got the name right, the Bulgarian-born managing director of the IMF. Early in the morning on, let's listen to this date, the 12th of August, 2025. The 12th of August, 2025. That is important because we see all these threats on all these countries coming around that time. The cable was placed on the desk of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The message was sharp and unstable. Either allowed corporations from the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, backed by the IMF, to immediately begin mining and exporting 70% of the gold or pay $5.6 billion to G7 nations, plus the IMF debt of $324 million SDR. Refuse and be prepared to face sanctions, resource blockades, and engineered internal destabilization. This was not diplomacy. This was a bare-faced act of extortion. Now, he says, we saved you from terrorism. We fed you when you were starving. We lent you money. Now it's time to pay your debt or pay the price. That's according to Trump in his message. But of course, Trump didn't. He miscalculated Ibrahim Traore. So I started with that only to say all these countries are being threatened. Now, what happened on January the 3rd, of course, we know the United States kidnapped Maduro. What else happened on January the 3rd? Burkina Faso reports that there was a foiled coup attempt linked to a former leader of Burkina Faso. So you have a couple of things happening. Same day, January the 3rd, Burkina Faso's defense and security forces reportedly thwarted a coup attempt on the night of January 3rd, 2026, with authorities arresting several suspects allegedly linked to former interim president Paul Damiba, according to local media reports and regional news outlets. So this particular report that I'm reading, of course, the BBC came out, I think, the 6th of January and reported. This was from a Ghanaian news source, which I trust a little more. So Damiba, who used to be part of that government, was, they say, I guess he was part of the foiled plot attempt. The plot uncovered on January 3rd led by the arrest of several suspects, including the alleged mastermind described as a known associate of Damiba, who briefly ruled Burkina Faso in 2022 before being ousted by current leader Captain Ibrahim Traore. The operation was foiled thanks to timely intelligence that followed authorities to act swiftly, according to Central News South Africa. Beautiful. Yes. Following reports of these foiled attempts, hundreds of Traore supporters, often called, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, Wailigans, mobilized in the capital city during the night of January 3rd and into January 4th. Demonstrators occupied roundabouts and public squares, affirming their intention to form a popular barrier against any attempt to overthrow the government. Wow. Let me go to the next one. Yeah, there it is. Beautiful. Love it. I'm saying that because Will, the engineer, is popping this up so I could read it a little better. The Sahel Solidarity Campaign Network, a Pan-African advocacy group, issued a statement on January 4th condemning what is described as the latest attempt to overthrow Burkina Faso's government. The organization characterized the incident as involving foreign mercenaries led by Damiba. Through these claims have not yet been independently verified. Wow, this is this was going on again in January the 3rd. The Sahel Solidarity Campaign Network, the failed terrorist act was planned and executed by foreign mercenaries and led by former head of state and disgraced dictator Damiba, the statement claimed, while calling for strong international response against alleged foreign interference in the region. So what is interesting to me about this is a couple of things. Here we have that there was reports of money going in by outside foreign forces. This seems to be a tactic. Get that brown bag of money, take it in to the country, and allow the folks, the people who take that bag of money, great, take the bag of money to do, in other words, people are getting paid off. Will, I don't want to use you, but I'm going to use you. Will, hey man, I got like $2 million here. I know you at KPFK. Can you do some stuff for me? Of course, Will wouldn't do it, but other people would do it. And that's what's going on. People, I mean, they're using, and this is our money. It's nobody else's money. It's our money. So they're taking out, the CIA was in there. The CIA, remember, Trump said we're going to send the CIA into Venezuela. What do you think they were doing down there? Trying to convince the people that they shouldn't be socialist? No, they were trying to see who they could buy off. But here's the kicker. They kidnapped Maduro, but the same government is still in place. The Bolivarian government is still in place. So they're doing like they did to Burkina Faso. And I hope I'm not rambling too much. I'm going to have my guest on in a second. But all this is connected. You know, we have all these threats. But I maintain that they're losing power. They cannot do what they really want to do. I saw a thing on the Gray Zone where they interviewed one of the Venezuelan heads of state. And he basically said, look, it's the same government. Nothing has changed. But what you do see is all these threats by the bully president, Pinocchio, the liar. You know, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But why did they not go into the ground forces? Did you see the videos of all the people who were armed and said, no, yes, they're even if you did not like Maduro, and there's been a lot of propaganda about Maduro, let me tell you that. There is always propaganda about these leaders. Oh, they're terrible dictators. They kill their own people. They're doing this. I think on Democracy Now!, if you heard, they threatened Iran. If you harm any of those protesters, we're going to come in and take care of you. What the heck? How many protesters have been killed here in the United States within the past year for protesting peacefully against Gaza? Now, what if Iran said, if you harm any of those protesters, we want to come in and take care of you? This is such a hypocritical situation. It's pathetic. So it's all about, it's about a couple of things. It's about the whole domination, hegemony over the world, cultural, economic, et cetera, et cetera. And it's about, I'm going to say what somebody else calls it, the OCGFC, which is the owners and controllers of the global financial capital, who are basically in charge, that accord to Shahid Bowman. So, and I think it's a little bit of both, but we don't know. So we left off last week with Sister, the former presidential candidate, Jill Stein, and I brought on Nefta Freeman because the U.S. had just bombed Nigeria. But we didn't really get to do a lot because I had already booked Jill Stein. So I brought back Nefta. Hey, Nefta, and he's with us now. We're going to continue that conversation. Good to see you, hear you again.
Thanks for having me on.
In just a week, I mean, when we were on the air last week, this hadn't happened. And, we were talking about the bombing and this being the Venezuela bombing. But there was we talked about the Nigerian bombing, and we hadn't heard until a couple of days later after Saturday that they tried to have a coup in Burkina Faso. Mm-hmm. And they keep setting this up. Now I saw news headlines that Trump is threatening to bomb Mexico because of drug overlords. Mm-hmm. But this is, and I think a lot of this is desperation because they're losing. I do recall when Trump came into office, he said, look, if you're with BRICS, we're going to you're in trouble. But these countries are with BRICS. A lot of them are with BRICS. So it's their attempt to bully and threaten the world, thinking that they have this superior power. And they do in some cases, especially over Venezuela. That one strike but they would not go in on the ground because that's a whole different story. Yes, you have the superior technology to jam the the missiles, the anti-aircraft situation on the ground, which they did. But then after that, what you going to do? But there's so much natural. So let's start where we left off. We left off last week. We were talking about the bombing of Nigeria, and we were looking at the location of Nigeria, which is on the border of Burkina Faso.
Niger.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Niger. Okay. So it's not Niger. Yeah, people.
Whatever. Niger. People pronounce it
differently. Yeah. Niger.
French people say, the French speaking say Niger.
Yes. So anyway, so the three states, the AES, what do you call them?
The Alliance of Sahel States.
Yes.
It's a AES. It's a French acronym, so I don't know, something like alliance, right. And then whatever states is with a E, a status, kind of like a status in Spanish. It would be status something French and similar, and then Sahel. Alliance of Sahel States.
Right, which are Niger or Niger, whichever you prefer, Burkina Faso, and Mali. So they have made pacts, military agreements to fight off. They kicked out the West. But, I'm going. But that's before I start. They also kicked out the ICC. And, Will, if you would play that clip on computer, too, about how they kicked out which is the International Criminal Court. So this is a report about that. So they're obviously on the radar of the West and Trump and them. Go ahead.
Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger say that they are withdrawing from the International Criminal Court. The three West African countries accuse the ICC of being a, quote, instrument of neo-colonialist repression, saying that it only targets less privileged countries. They said they will no longer recognize its authority. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are all led by military governments, and those three governments have said that they will set up what they called indigenous mechanisms in its place. Al Jazeera's Nicholas Hack reports from Dakar in Senegal.
An instrument of neo-colonial repression in the hands of imperialism. Those are the cutting and strong words used in a joint statement from the Sahel countries. They say that the International Criminal Court delivers selective justice, a feeling shared by other countries in Africa where there seems to be a disproportionate amount of Africans being prosecuted at the ICC. There's been former heads of states, politicians that have spent years in detention to be then released without charge. Now, in the statement, they say that the ICC seems incapable of prosecuting obvious crimes, crimes against humanity, war crimes, but also crimes of genocide, clearly pointing the finger to Israel without mentioning them by name.
As you see, they got out of there. So we out of this. Y'all faking. You're faking, you're shaking, and you're lying. So what are we going to do in here? And the African countries are the ones who are indicted the most. And you did indict Netanyahu, but you're not doing anything. So they're out of there. So there's this global war, I believe, Netfa, going on. But let's back up and update the people on the bombing in Nigeria and what you did if they weren't listening to us last week. And let's move it forward from there. And we're going to hit on some other topics too. If we have time, possibly we might take listener calls, 818-985-5735, hit option 1. But this is, I learned about this. Well, let's start back with Nigeria and then let's move up to the attempted coup on January 3rd of Burkina Faso. So Nigeria, update the folks on that. What happened?
Well, it was on Christmas Day. The Trump administration launched an airstrike from from one of these, what do you call it, ships off the coast, across, off the coast, over all across on the other end of Nigeria from the coast of the shore, the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know what's the Gulf or something, and that it was right on the border. It was within the region called Sokoto in Nigeria, and then the claim was that they were attacking terrorist outposts in Nigeria, like connected to ISIL. We know that in that region there are like the Boko Haram and those type of violent extremist groups that the whole of West Africa, particularly in the Sahel, have an issue with. They're having to deal with that, and the whole and what the claim of AFRICOM, the stated purpose of the U.S. Africa Command is that this is where they will be stopping this type of thing, working with African governments to stop this. And so under this notion, Trump launched this strike under the guise that the ISIL and those forces there have been killing Christians, and that it's this whole disposition or regard, supposed affinity for Christians that you can see coming out of the Western world, claims by a customer, but we know they don't care about Christians. And not to mention that in actuality, that is an area that's mostly Muslim, and that the people that are targeted by these violent groups there are mostly Muslim. And so has nothing to do with that. And we do know it's on the border, like you said, of Niger. Soon after this strike, which needed to go all the way, it's right on the border. Soon after this strike, the State Department or Department of Defense claim, and AFRICOM claim that this, like they always do with all their operations, claim that this was approved by the government of Nigeria. And the government of Nigeria and the President Tinubu said they confirmed it, that they did approve it, or they approve of it. And neither one of them actually said that, that's from my recollection, unless they've changed it at the time, that they were requested to do it. Usually with Somalia, which Somalia is heavily bombed all the time with drone strikes, almost on a weekly, pretty much on a weekly basis. The United States sanctioned drone strikes operation there, and so in this claim that it was approved, that was an approved strike, we actually can see that this strike confirms again, because the Black Line representing the Black Lives for Peace in our campaign, U.S. Out of Africa Shut Down, AFRICOM, which is the campaign to highlight and expose U.S. imperialism in Africa, maintained militarily by the U.S. Africa Command, known as AFRICOM. And this proves and shows, or confirms rather, because we've been saying it for a long time, that why the United States, why AFRICOM must be shut down. AFRICOM needs to be shut down. It doesn't serve any other purpose but enforcing neocolonialism, U.S. dominance on the continent of Africa through militarism, and propping up the neocolonial puppet governments that are in Africa. The long-standing and fundamental crisis of sovereignty, because people understand that there's a sovereignty problem when it comes to Western imperialism and Africans inability to exercise self-determination. That means that's a breach of sovereignty, right? And so, but at the root of this sovereignty, the structural neocolonial structural impediment or sustenance is through operations like the unrestrained operations of AFRICOM, as a graphic example of that dependency. That's what this strike is. It's a graphic example of the dependency of neocolonial comprador class in Africa to stay in power, be kept in power by U.S. imperialism. Now we have to understand that most people can look at the continent of Africa and see that there's a lot of issues that Africa has. People talk about corrupt leaders been in power for so long. They talk about the war and destabilization, the poverty, the famine. And then we hear the rhetoric of the Western governments and the U.S. government like they're there to stop something. So they're there to solve poverty. They're there to do something about the terrorism. But yet, we have to understand the logic of the global economy and the imperialist economy. Imperialism, and we know classic what we call classic colonialism, leading up now having to transform and pretend to honor the independence struggles of Africa, now has transformed into neo-colonialism, the new colonialism, which has all the, the appearance of some kind of independence and self-determination, but really everything is to continue to be controlled by outside. If in fact there was real self-determination, the people wouldn't want their resources looted. They wouldn't want all their exports and, all their land use for cash crops export and all that used in ways that don't benefit the people. So in order for that scenario to exist, for the West to continue to reap the benefits of raw material extraction and all of these things, the plunder of Africa must be destabilized. The role of AFRICOM is to destabilize Africa. It is not to fight terrorism. The role of agencies like the U.S. Agency for International Development, or any of that, where it says they're going to give them food and all that, it's not to solve the problem of hunger on the African continent. It is to destabilize the African continent, to displace local markets and local sources, to create a dependency and a regard for the West, a subservient regard for the rest, a patronization and whatnot. And that's what these institutions are for. And so we have to be very clear that these are as Kwame Nkrumah so aptly described and laid it out in his book, Neo-Colonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism. These institutions are institutions of neocolonialism. The USAID and all that, even like the World Bank and IMF that gives out these loans with strings attached, that require African governments to lower tariffs and to privatize things and to get rid of social programs that are for education and healthcare and whatnot. That means that they're extensions of neocolonialism. That means that the people they're preventing the people from organizing and establishing systems and systems of organization for themselves that can benefit the people, that will reorder things, redistribute land, and have institutions that will dispense and provide health care on a mass level, to scale and whatnot, like what we see in Burkina Faso. So this is why we have to connect the dots. Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger, these countries that have formed the Alliance of Sahel states, that goes back to the efforts to unite the continent of Africa when we were looking at the independence movements and the Organization of African Unity and what Ghana was leading and Guinea was leading and a lot of the even Nigeria under Modibo. I'm sorry, not Keita. Is that right? Nigeria. I'm playing.
It's been a while since Nigeria, but keep
anyway,
going.
But that these now the AES is trying to reestablish this on the modern level. They saw fit that we can't get control of our governments unless we take control. And so some people the West wants us to decry quote unquote juntas and coups as if that in itself makes it undemocratic or against some kind of humanity or something like that. Well, it's against the West. And so these countries now are establishing, getting control of their gold and their resources, uranium and everything, and also when they kick out the French, we're talking about kicking out the currency, the CFA franc, that has been used to dominate the monetary systems of African countries. They, as you said, they established a unified military formation to actually really do something about this terrorism, which the West has not been able to do. So the West, like this strike in Nigeria, we could see a number of reasons why that they would do this. One is just, like you said earlier, the desperation of losing control. They can't really understand the global South and what motivates us. They operate on fear and these kind of things. So if you cast a strike off the bow, as a warning, stop your self-determination, or this strike came only 5 days before the announcement of the Alliance of Sahel States of their unified military command. I can't remember the word they're using. It's a a battalion or something that they all put together to fight the terrorism in the Sahel. Now imagine what this does for Western legitimacy if in fact these countries can come together after having kicked out the Western military forces that claim to be there to fight terrorism, and they come together and they successfully deter this terrorism. And showing that what Africa doesn't need the West, and particularly not the United States. You wanted to say something?
Oh no, I was listening. You're
Okay.
listening.
Yeah, and so
to-
these. Mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, these are the some of the reasons that we can suspect the motivations around this particular strike in the Sahel. Now, some people will say, well, we might think that it's for the oil of Nigeria because they on a war pursuit. They're always in pursuit of oil. That doesn't really make much sense under Nigeria. The current government there is subservient to the West. They don't need to take it over or anything like they do Venezuela or anything. So, and we know that they don't care about Christians because they're Christians around the world, like and particularly like in Palestine. Everybody, they want us to believe everything is about all the Palestinians are Muslim and Hamas are Muslim, and that the Palestinian Christians aren't being killed in this genocide. So we know they're being, and it's also it helps boost this narrative that the right wing evangelical Christian type and Christian Zionists are pushing, which I know you want to get to that about the Somaliland and the Zionists trying to support Somaliland, but they are pushing this notion, and they probably believe it. This is the kind of what I refer to as the Euro-Judeo-Christian disposition, an outlook of the world, which is really basically has nothing to do with the religions that it's claiming. It is basically Western white supremacy and global dominance. That's basically what it is.
That's what it is. We've talked about
and
that.
so, we may have heard of Judeo-Christian, but we have to be clear and put that Euro-Judeo-Christian because Judaism and Christianity as religions have their origins in Africa. And so, I mean, listen, I'm not talking, we got to look it up. This is just history. I'm not some kind of, just like everything is good as in Africa. But these, I mean, they're not, every religion ain't good. But the point is people have come to adopt these major religions, and the European imperialism comes to embrace it and appropriate and package it back to us as theirs. So that's why we have our people all across the world that may have a white Jesus on the wall and then white Moses and these kind of things, but the point is these are African things. And so we have to, when we don't put that we assert and put a Euro on there, Euro-Judeo-Christian, to make it clear that this is abomination of these religions. The Judeo is really Zionism and the Christianity, these evangelical type of ethos. And so they want to paint that. They want to reemerge that under the,
Right.
And,
you covered a lot of ground, and we're going to continue. We're listening to Nefta Freeman. He's with the Black Alliance for Peace. He deals with Africa and AFRICOM. Get AFRICOM out of Africa. Because as he said, it's just a means to destabilize even USAID. And I heard a lot of people crying, so many people are going to starve in Africa because USAID was there. It was a front for the CIA. It was a front for a lot of things.
But we have to kind of use our logic. I mean, some people, it's not unknown that Africa as a continent is one, and those even like Asia and South America, Latin America is one of the richest continents on the face of the earth.
Yes.
Arable land, resources. Why would we need the West to come in and provide things like food and whatnot?
They came in, they bullied their way in, just like they're doing around the world.
But in terms of understanding why USAID and all that is a farce.
Right. Yeah, it's a farce. 818-985, there's some callers on the line. You can call them back if you like, and just hold on. 818-985-5735. You're listening to Cut to the Chase. We're a weekly program heard every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time, because there's other people around the world who listen. So that's 8 a.m. Pacific time. And we deal with a lot of different issues, mostly international, but we do get local sometimes. Hopefully next week we'll have the governors of California here, because there's a gubernatorial race, which few people know about. They don't know the candidates. I don't even know all the candidates, but it's amazing all the people who we don't. This whole system is so ridiculous. The way it's run, putting money into politics, having to pay for ads to find out what's going on. To promote what you're doing. That's why we have this duopoly, because it's so corrupt by both parties, and they, and I'm not going to get into what, better or worse, because the bottom line is we've been fighting this battle since I've been around, and I don't care who's in office. Easier or worse, I just want to win the war. I don't want to win a couple of battles. So Netfa's talking to us about, and I just want to add, we were talking about Burkina Faso, and they nationalized their gold because before they took over, I think in what was 2022, when Ibrahim came to power, before that, France actually controlled their gold, and they didn't refine their gold. So Burkina Faso had to export it to France, and then it was refined in France. So now they are refining their own gold. So it's a new day, and the West sees that. The West, specifically the United States, they see that, and they've been fighting. This fight has not just started on January the 3rd against Venezuela. It has not started on January 3rd against the Burkina Faso. That's why I read you that thing at the top of the show, that they had their eyes on. This is ours. We believe. It's not just the Monroe Doctrine on the Western Hemisphere. It's the world that they want, the world. That's why they have a war, they being the United States, have a war against the Soviet Union, Russia, and China, because China, they're doing it differently. And I have to applaud, back at the time, the USSR for supporting those liberation movements in Africa. They supported them. No one else. Cuba and the USS supported those countries fighting for their freedom in Africa. And who's helping out Burkina Faso today? The Soviet Union and China. Not that Russia. I want to say they're all good. Yeah, I'm sorry, Russia. And they're so bad, they're evil, and Putin is this, and he's blah 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 blah. You know what? Get over it. Yes, I'm sure he does some terrible things. I'm not promoting their thing. They do some good things too. I'm trying to see the good things that this country does. A lot of people, you know how many people lost their lives in these attacks? I mean, okay, the people listening, you listening to me right now, you have family. What if one of your family was killed in these stupid attacks just so we could be comfortable? 818, there's some callers on the line. We'll get to you. We'll just keep calling back. We're going to take it a little later. We're going to go back to Netfa, and we're going to talk about what's going on in Somalia. You can give us your analysis of what's going on in there, because I heard, because I'm not real familiar with it. I know it's been a mess. I know that the U.S., they have minerals. I know that the U.S. has been supplying weapons. Where do these military folks get their weapons from? Weapons manufacturing and distribution is huge business, just as the pharmaceuticals and the for-profit health industry. So they're making big monies, they being those folks up in the government. So I guess a lot of people were upset because Israel, and so you want to break that down to me, because Somalia broke away, or they acknowledged or recognized that government. Break it down to us, would you?
So the United Nations, the Security Council of the United Nations, they held an emergency meeting. It was what's today? Maybe a week from last Monday, to discuss that Israel announced that it was recognizing Somaliland, which is a region in Somalia, and that a northern region in Somalia, or southern Somalia, and that this was, the Somalia called the Security Council to have this and to denounce this move by Israel, not just the Somalia, but also the African and Arab countries, a lot of African Arab countries, the African Union, the League of Arab States were denouncing this because it was clearly a move by the settler state of Israel that was disingenuous. Their claims were about genocide and some other stuff, and that Somaliland has, as if it's this independent thing, and that they were really not dealing with the issue in Somalia and Somaliland. Now, this has been a struggle that Somaliland, which is in Somalia. I mean, the history is longer than we have time to get into, and I'm not the best person to deal with it. But at some point, we're talking about British colonialism versus Italian colonialism. They both the Somaliland fought against the Italian colonialism and established itself as an independent nation. In 1991, there was a merger between. They actually became part, and the other was colonized by the British. But they became one. It's a kind of similar to the Eritrea Ethiopia situation, except for the merger and the absorbent. Eritrea never agreed to be part of they're their own independent state. They've always been. With Somalia, there was an agreement for the Somaliland to be part, to absorb and become one country, one nation, and that's what they are today. The breakaway is a little something is different. It's not after there's some years after the at some point, because neocolonialism gets established on the African continent, you get a lot of country or leaders on the African continent, and they're doing the bidding of neocolonialism. So the ruler of Somalia, Siad Barre, was ruling Somalia until he was overthrown. I think it was about 1991, or a little bit before, 1991. And then the emergence of this idea of the breakaway country of Somaliland, which also was not just the same proper Somaliland. There was some of the territory of Somaliland is still part of Somalia. It appears that the masses of the people want to be one country. And that those who are fighting in the staff, so there's been demonstrations against this move by Zionism in the countries in both territories, and so the struggle for succession by Somaliland is a struggle of some elite forces the elite formations that see benefits in that. Now, the interest of Israel is that it's a lot of interest. One, it puts them in proximity to Yemen, that has been giving them the grief in terms of, why they're at war with Yemen, because Yemen's been at war with them for, just being with Israel, for being a destabilizing force, and the genocide against the Palestinians. And so this gives them, because that's part of the establishment, they want a base in Somaliland. So it's not just, they also are interested in I guess it would be a deportation,
exiling the Palestinians. Go ahead.
The refugees, and putting them in Somalia, allegedly has agreed and to absorb them, the refugees. And these are all moves, and then it also puts that choke point within the Red Sea I always get this name mixed up, the Bab el Mandeb Strait between Yemen and the Arabian Peninsula, and in Djibouti, and it puts them right there in this in the Horn of Africa, and so in other words, if their recognition of Somaliland, Israel's recognition of Somaliland, is to become a stronghold, to use Somaliland, in this. And if they were recognized by the United Nations or something as its own country, then it has these certain rights, and it makes the Horn of Africa, where it's already destabilized, it makes it even more unstable, and then Israel would be able to serve the same purpose that it serves in Asia, Western Asia anyway, as the destabilizing in Iran and all these other. That's what Zionism, the settler colonial state of Israel, does. And so this is all self-serving moves, and it was denounced by this the Somali representative of the UN, did a really good when he talked about the interest and the hypocrisy of Israel, claiming that it's because of the genocide of Somaliland people and
you
the
believe that
stability of Somalia.
Israel
We have
talking
to,
about a genocide,
right? And we have to recognize that Somalia as a country is unstable. The government is not a revolutionary government at the council house, but the instability of Somalia is the United States is directly responsible for it, directly. And so even supporting to a number of things, supporting the illicit at the time the government of Ethiopia was run by the TPLF, the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, and their party, and they were used as a proxy. They allowed themselves to be used as a proxy in a war against Somalia to destabilize Somalia. There was a different government then that was on the path to self-determination. It was being the Islamic court or something. I can't remember that. I keep always forgetting the exact thing. It was with Somali government that was destabilized by the United States until in a war between Ethiopia led by TPLF that was getting funding and support from the United States directly. And then after that, the overthrow of that particular government, the United States has been on this, with the emergence of Al-Shabaab, which is Al-Shabaab, which comes out of the government before, but it's kind of,
so
lost direction.
Bottom line is that the U.S. has had their dirty, filthy hands in there, giving money to both sides for so long.
United States bombs Somalia weekly.
Yeah. That's Nefta Freeman, by the way, y'all. He's with the Black Alliance for Peace. We're going to take your calls. And you mentioned at the earlier logic of the global economy. It's illogical. It's about, what can we take? What can we do? And it's the same. It's the same that how this country was founded, this country being the United States, by let's bogart, kill as many people as we can. Let's get some free labor, cheaper free labor, whichever comes first, or both, if we could do both at the same time. So nothing has changed, and we have a whole psychological warfare against the people who think this is great. Oh my, this is the greatest thing since pancakes. America, you have democracy, you have freedom. But the bottom line is this: the people of Burkina Faso are very much supportive of their president, Ibrahim Traoré. The people in Venezuela are not. They are supportive of their government. Some are not, but they are not supportive of any U.S. intervention. So what I see is that they're going to have a hard time, and I think they realize this. They're trying to do it. Pinocchio, Trump is trying to, bogart and say we're the greatest in the world, we're the mightiest and the toughest in the world, even though we haven't won any world wars in a while. So you better listen to us. So he's trying to use the bully tactic, and I don't think it's going to work. We have 818-985-5735, area code 323-461. 818-985-5735 is the number. 818-985-5735. Hit option 1 to ask a question. If you have a comment, it has to be short. We're going to phase you out in 60 minutes if it's a comment. Questions, ask your questions. We're going to keep moving. Netfo is on a roll. He's talking of giving some information about the bombing in Nigeria. The bombing in Nigeria. Oh my God, that just blew my mind.
Yeah, we don't know how many casualties or anything because they don't.
Right.
They don't
care.
Disclose that. Yeah.
They don't care. And then we haven't even talking about the war here in the United States, which is exploding, where they're killing people on the streets, and then talking about we have immunity. Federal employees have immunity. So this federal agent who murdered her, he has total immunity. Let's take caller 2 and see what you have to say. You're on Cut to the Chase with Nefta Freeman. My name is Sly Rivers. What do you got?
How are you?
We're good. How are you?
Sly, I just wanted to, I'm probably going to repeat myself. I talked off air to the person fielding the calls. I just wanted to say real quickly that I'm not an African American. I'm a Mexican American kind of, and so I just wanted to say that Bob Marley was a prophet, and one of the greatest songs that he wrote was "Africa Unite." And what we're seeing now, and we saw the murder of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi over in Libya, and they killed him basically because he was trying to unite Africa under one currency. And the neo-colonial powers that you are all talking about, he wanted to have Africa unite and have a gold standard, African gold standard, right, to back up a new currency that was acceptable all around Africa. The CIA murdered him for that, and I just wanted to say that.
I think you're totally right. There's reports that Bob Marley was murdered. He was a prophet. He had assassination attempts on his life while he was in Jamaica. He also brought, at that time, the Prime Minister Michael Manley and Siaga together at a concert, and lightning struck. Well, it didn't strike it. Boom, boom, boom. So he had some excellent songs for liberation: Exodus, Africa Unite, Zimbabwe, and on and on. Thank you, caller, for your call. So that was. Do you want to comment on that, and we'll keep moving? I think
we can make it really brief. I believe that this is why we need to have our people embrace Pan-Africanism as an objective, not just a philosophy, a vague philosophy, but the uniting of the continent, as an objective, and that wherever we are as Black people, I'm an African person, Black people, I think, are African people, then we got to imagine that if we were an organized force under Pan-Africanism within the United States, they couldn't just do what they do against Africa, and vice versa.
And that's one of the fears, the unity under Pan-Africanism. If you're a Pan-Africanism, you're a threat.
Right.
And for those who don't know what Pan-Africanism is,
what happens to us domestically here would be harder if we had the powerhouse force of Africa that was looking out for us as Africans.
Okay, we're going to take this caller from Nigeria, and I'd like quickly, while we're getting to this caller, I've had a friend say, well, you know what? They don't like us over there. They're killing us over there. And so there's this propaganda war going on that Africans, if you go there, they don't like you. You might get killed. This is a huge propaganda campaign, and folks buy into it because they don't have good sources. This caller is from Nigeria. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So I just happened to bump into KPFK this morning, but I usually watch it anyway, listen, but I just listened to you guys were talking about Africa. Then I saw you were picking calls. I said, Carol, let me call in. So Africa has to unite, which is still not happening, and we all know why it's not happening. So it's unfortunate that the West, they want to control the world the way they are doing it, the way they are going about it. Basically, I don't think they consider Africans as human, because I don't think even Venezuela. I don't think they consider So and that's how weakened humanity we humans can actually be. So, but the main problem of Africa, like when you talk about Nigeria, the president, there's a president there, they call him Tinubu. So during the election, I'm going to say this online, during the election, he never won the election. But he was put there by the West, and the first country that congratulated him was France, then followed by America. They congratulate him. So a country like Nigeria, in Africa, that we have a lot of educated people, well, how come Tinubu can be a president? I mean, come on. So that's to tell you.
Wait. They're continuing. I didn't quite answer. They're continuing to do what? Keep going.
What I'm saying is what I'm trying to say that the president, the Tinubu they call the president of Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
He was not an elected president of Nigeria. Obi was elected, but they put him there. So
I got you.
Okay, they put him there. Okay, so they put him there because of the same reason. Okay, now. Africa unite. I don't know how. I just pray to live to see that to happen. But the way the West is going, I don't know. They're very aggressive. They don't really care because they probably don't consider anybody human except the West.
Sister.
Okay, now what I think the problem right now is okay.
Let me ask you a question before you go on, because we have other callers. You're being from Nigeria. What have you heard about the bombing from your folks in Nigeria, your fellow Nigerians. What have you heard? What are they saying? Is there a I don't want to say a movement, but what
around Sokoto, and that's where they bombed during the Christmas, because the Christians are asking for help, because the way they kill the Christians, like they are killing hundreds a day. That it's not like it's gotten worse. And mostly when Tinubu came in, it got even worse because he's a Muslim. So we've been having that issue of the Muslim killing the Christian, which I think is the number one problem in Africa. You understand? Because these are Africans too, killing other Africans because of religion, and the West are taking advantage of that. And the whatever all those Middle East, whether they call it Saudi Arabia, whatever, they are taking advantage of that because the resources are shifting to them. That's what's going on. That
Gotcha. We're going to thank you for the line. The quality of the line is not that great, so I'm missing a lot of what you're saying. I'm getting a lot, but I'm missing a lot also. But we thank you so much for your call, especially being from Nigeria and giving us that analysis. You want to comment before we go to the next caller?
Well, I mean, I just say really quickly, because what the caller brings up, I got to say this before the show ends, is the highest expression of unity is organization. And the Black Alliance for Peace, our campaign, U.S. out of Africa, shut down AFRICOM, has a U.S. out of Africa network. And that people should go to blackallianceforpeace.com. That's the word for FOR, blackallianceforpeace.com, and see our statements around not just Africa, but Venezuela, everything. And then see about joining our network, and that we have to be organized, and we're an alliance of organizations. I represent Pan-African Community Action, and then also individuals. But, we have to organize.
We have to organize. We have to educate people to know what's going on in Burkina Faso, because they're going to try to portray Ibrahim Traoré is some dictator, madman who is, I mean, they did it already. They've started that campaign, but it didn't work. He's this madman who's taking the gold and using the gold for his own interests, even though they just nationalized the gold. That was, what was his name? Michael Langley, who had that propaganda. It's out now. But let's see if we have time for one or two more callers on the line. Do you have a question for Nefta or a quick comment?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice program.
Glad you like it.
Thank you, sir. I'm a Nigerian.
The Nigerian rules this morning. Go ahead.
My brother there, who was analyzing the issue in Africa,
yes,
it's 100%.
Nefta Freeman.
He's 100%. Yeah, okay, he's 100% right. But at the same time, as a Nigerian, we appreciate President Trump bombing Nigeria. Okay, we've been in a total disaster for the last 10 years in Nigeria.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, as a Nigerian living in America, we get scared going home.
Yeah.
And when we go home, we rarely step out.
Wow.
Because of
how has Trump bombing Nigeria helped that situation? Do we think that Trump and the rest of them imperialism really cares about African people?
As much as I will agree to that, maybe 45%. But the bombing of Nigeria was right on the money.
But why? How has that helped Africa?
Because not Africa as a whole, but
or even Nigeria. How has it helped?
Because of insecurity.
Is it more secure?
No, I mean, it sends a signal. It sends a signal to the leaders in Nigeria to get their acts together.
But they don't. The United States. Who is the United States to tell somebody to get their act together? They committing genocide. Have been part of the plunder of Africa. That's what when they say get your act together. Say you better let us keep taking these resources and stop trying to chart your own course.
The point is, you blame it on our leaders. Look at Burkina Faso you're talking about, and you
got like 30. You got. Unfortunately, we're out of time. You got like 15 seconds to wrap up. Go ahead.
Okay, look at Sahel region. The leaders there are doing something, and every African knows that. I was totally in support of them.
So they,
But a country like
okay, that's good. I see what you're saying, but you think that bombing might help some.
That's a contradiction. You can't be in support of them and be in support of the United States.
Because they're also trying to overthrow the Sahel states. We're out of time. I don't believe we're out of time. My goodness. This has been Cut to the Chase. Nefta, we're out of time, man.
Well, thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.
10 seconds to wrap up.
Well, I just want to encourage people to go to blacklinesforpeace.com and read the text of our statements. And, and we have a YouTube page, Black Lines for Peace on YouTube, where you can hear some of the interviews. Like, I think this one's up there, but we have some of the interviews we do around Venezuela and everything else.
Cut to the Chase every Friday at 8 a.m. My name is Sylvester Rivers. Tom Hartman is next. Sorry about the callers who we couldn't get to you.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. Thanks, Will. That's our engineer, Will. He comes in here. I work him, man. He don't come in here and play. I work him. But I think he likes it. We'll see you next week.
90.7 FM, KPFK, Los Angeles.
If you were looking for a date when our modern American oligarchy started, it would be January 30th,